Voyager's brought to a stop by two particularly large spacecraft. Whatever's cracking off, we're clearly in the middle of it, as there's mention of teleport stuff and cargo bays. We're called and told we're to be inspected with a list of rules for our conduct while it happens, and this isn't our first time either, as Janeway says she's familiar with the protocol. Perhaps those preparations at the start were just getting things in order, but Kim mentioning a teleport buffer suggests we might be up to something. It occurs to me that it'd be a good place to hide contraband. The aliens, who are called the Devore by the way, board Voyager and start poking around, except for the one who teleports to Janeway's ready room and summons her into it after getting the computer to play classical music throughout the ship. He's clearly the one in charge, so let's drag out the wheel to see what we'll be calling him. His new name is... Diarrhea Pocket, put forward by Commander Chaos Tiki. Diarrhea Pocket has replicated coffee for her, the gesture a thin veil for abusing his power, much like the music. Those performing the search are somewhat less subtle. Conduits and Jeffrey's tubes are scanned, as are the crew, and a group visits the teleporter room that Kim's in and pokes around the gubbins. At least one of our visitors can't resist the urge to act like a cock and throw some stuff around in sickbay. A shame the tube he smashes isn't a particularly unpleasant virus. The guy from the initial call, who seems to be Diarrhea Pocket's lapdog, notes some unusual power records for the teleporters, but lets it go after B'Elanna says we're having issues. In the cargo bay he asks Seven about her implants, making sure that the Borg communications gubbins aren't the same as telepathy. Come to think of it, we've not seen Tuvok yet this episode, and Vulcans have innate telepathic abilities. Looks like that might be what they're hunting for. Diarrhea Pocket confirms as much. He was here for the last inspection and took a copy of Voyager's crew manifest when he left. Now he wants to know why Janeway didn't mention the 2 Vulcans and 2 Betazoids on it. She says this is because they're dead, claiming Tuvok and Ensign Conspicuous died in a shuttle crash along with an unknown Betazoid. The other on the list was our old friend Lon Suda, so she's at least telling the truth about him having carked it. That's fortunate, says Diarrhea Pocket, as his people would never tolerate the presence of telepaths in their borders, which are rather large and necessitate Voyager going through them. Diarrhea Pocket's lapdog returns to report that they found no telepaths, but notes Voyager changed course twice without permission. Okay, it was to avoid science wibblies, but that still means Voyager can be impounded. Diarrhea Pocket is more forgiving, much to his lapdog's displeasure, and lets them go. Maybe he senses there's something more to all of this, or maybe he just really enjoys being a dick to Janeway and doesn't want it to end. The Devore ship leaves and Janeway calls the teleporter room to let them know. At the same time, Seven's setting up some tech bobbins that I recognise as pattern enhancers for particularly difficult teleporter jobs. After a bit of a false start, we bring back the people who are being held, and it's rather a lot more than the 3 I'd expected. As well as our own people, I count 12 more. Perhaps Voyager's moving into the minibus business to make ends meet. Our passengers are being checked over by the doctor. Janeway arrives to tell their leader that she's received a call from a ship we're supposed to meet, one that will take them to a wormhole in out of Devore space. Presumably our passengers are telepaths too, and we're trying to help them escape, but the ship we're going to pass them on to keeps changing the meeting place. The doc adds another wrinkle. All of this time spent in the teleport buffer has started to cause problems, and much more of it could escalate those problems to being dead. Worrying about that will have to wait, as the ship we're arranging to meet has given us yet another call. To Astrometrics, where Seven is showing us the new rendezvous point. It's out of the way and in a nebula, which presumably means it's not on the course we've been told we shouldn't deviate from. Still, that can't be helped, so Janeway orders Voyager to get there without going too near anything owned by the Devore. We'll have to chance it with the patrols. Unfortunately, it seems luck is not with us, as Janeway is visiting Neelix to check up on the children he's entertaining and grab some food. Tuvok detects another Devore ship. We hustle all the telepaths to the cargo bay so we can prepare to play teleport hide-and-seek again while Janeway goes to the bridge. Odd thing though, the ship approaching is just a scout with 1 person aboard, and their weapons are turned off too. A call reveals that the pilot is none other than Diarrhea Pocket, and out of uniform too. He says he needs to talk, so we move to Janeway's ready room. Janeway's not willing to play games now there aren't any guns pointing at her, and tells him as much. Just as well then that he's not here to inspect Voyager. In fact, he's here to request asylum so he can defect. And to prove it, he's warning us about the ships that are going to intercept us if we carry on to the nebula, as it's a trap to capture people smuggling telepaths. You know, like the 12 he's aware we're keeping in the teleport buffer during inspections, the ones he could have revealed at any time he wanted, if he wasn't genuine. Looks like Janeway is giving him a chance. We're down in astrometrics looking at the ships hidden in the nebula, the ones Diarrhea Pocket has helped us find after telling us how to counteract the special shields they have that stop them appearing on scans. He also tells us the ship we were supposed to meet was captured a week back, and it's the Devore we've been taking rendezvous instructions from ever since. This nebula was how they planned to capture whoever the original transport ship was signalling. With that ship gone, Diarrhea Pocket says we'll have to get to the wormhole out of Devore space ourselves. Luckily, he has the schedules and routes for all of the patrols so we can stay out of the way, along with some technical data on their ships, just in case shit goes south. Diarrhea Pocket won't be missed for a couple of weeks as he's booked a holiday, so he hopes that'll be long enough for us to find this wormhole on our own. All he wants in return is to go through it with the other passengers. It's a decision Janeway says isn't up to her, so she goes to ask the leader of our guests, who we learn are called the Brinari. He says it's possible Diarrhea Pocket is telling the truth, as he wouldn't be the first Devore sympathizer. Chakotay addresses the elephant in the room and asks why we don't just read his thoughts, but the leader tells us that Devore soldiers undergo intense training to resist such things. That checks out for a people terrified of telepaths, so we'll give the writers a point. Tuvok's suspicious because that's his job, but Janeway's willing to give Diarrhea Pocket a chance and see how it all pans out, with suitable safeguards, of course. Our only remaining problem is how we're going to find that wormhole. The Brinari leader says there's a scientist in a nearby system that knows about it, which is terribly handy, and will help in exchange for payment. After telling Diarrhea Pocket that he's been accepted by the Brinari, but will be restricted and monitored while here because she personally thinks he's a dickhead, we set course to find this scientist lad. After 2 days of searching, we locate the scientist, which is unfortunate for him as it seems he didn't want to be found and is currently trying to leg it from Voyager. He's not answering calls, but Kim manages to hack into his communications system. It's an interesting way to prove we're not hostile, and the scientist seems to agree, telling us to piss off. Diarrhea Pocket wants us to disable his ship, but that's a bit much even for Janeway, and we teleport the lad over instead, before moving to Janeway's ready room. We try to make amends by bribing him. We were told earlier that he wants a certain material, and it's one we can replicate. Even with the promise of more, he's reluctant to talk, denying any knowledge of the wormhole we seek. Diarrhea Pocket, who's also present, takes a different approach. He suggests that this scientist is incompetent, a ploy Janeway leans into by telling the scientist that Diarrhea Pocket is also an expert and one with a low opinion of him. Appealing to his ego seems to do the job, and we learn that this wormhole isn't entirely fixed, the entrance jumping around. But he can give us the last 4 locations, and challenges Professor Diarrhea Pocket to calculate the next. Janeway and Diarrhea Pocket are working on the problem together, and rather chummily too, I note. If he's a spy, he's doing an excellent job of it. In fact, they seem to be getting along very well indeed, and we're setting them up, aren't we? Well, why not? After all, Mark moved on with his life and got married. Bastard even gave away her dog's puppies. She deserves a bit of personal happiness. They have a bit of a chat while sightseeing at a window, waiting for the computer to do computey things. Diarrhea Pocket's somewhat apprehensive about his future, as he'll hardly be welcomed by the people he spent so long hunting. Interestingly, he makes the same observation about Janeway's return home. She might not be entirely welcomed herself, given her somewhat malleable approach to the Prime Directive. In fact, aiding the telepath she's currently got on board is potentially a violation in itself, interference in the politics of non-affiliated species. She doesn't seem that bothered by this week's events, which is fair enough when you consider her rap sheet of aiding the Borg, committing murder, and that probable extinction she was directly responsible for. At least she can pin that one on the Omega Directive, but it's still not a good look. She explains that she's a worry-about-it-later kind of person when it comes to explaining her actions, and it doesn't hurt that she's also on first-name terms with quite a few admirals. With that casual hint of corruption at the heart of Starfleet Command out of the way, we move to Diarrhea Pocket's motivation for leaving. In short, he sent a kid off to a concentration camp and was very sad about it afterwards. We don't get the chance to explore it further as the computer tells us it's finished doing beep-boop things. It's calculated that the wormhole will be about 8 light-years away in 3 days, but there's a slight problem. The route takes us past a sensor installation that the Devore have and one with a 10 light-year range. It'll find any warp or impulse signatures in that area and investigate. Diarrhea Pocket suggests we can drop power output and coast past, which isn't how warp speed works, and using sublight will take too long, but let's ignore that for now. We'll worry about it tomorrow when Janeway walks Diarrhea Pocket to his quarters. He tries to follow up the bit of flirting he did earlier by inviting her in for a drink, but she took his replicator offline when he came aboard to avoid him making anything potentially hostile, so they awkwardly bid each other goodnight instead. We're approaching that sensor. Low power mode seems to be working, and Paris tells us we'll be out of range in 10 minutes, so obviously now's the time for it all turning to shit. B'Elanna obliges with a warning about an engine something or other. It's not kaboom-worthy, but they'll see us the next time they throw out a circle of science wibbly. Attempts to fix it fail and we're spotted, so Janeway's done with subtlety and tries to leg it instead. We can probably get to the wormhole first, assuming we're right about where it is, but we'll be pursued by Devore ships. To make it even more time-critical, Seven tells us this wormhole's only going to be open for a couple of minutes. We'll have to detect the exact location and reach it in that time. Tuvok's improved our defences based on the information Diarrhea Pocket gave us about Devore ships, and that's just as well, as Paris tells us we'll have company in about 6 hours, so Janeway's preparing for a fight. Diarrhea Pocket doesn't fancy our chances against what's coming, but has a proposal. He'll go back. As a ranking officer, he can take charge of those ships and prevent any conflict. Of course, if he really is a spy, that's quite a good excuse for escape. Janeway doesn't like the idea, but for reasons of having grown to like him rather than any potential threat. Still, she agrees it's the best option available and tells him he can leave once his ship is ready. Before he departs, we run over the plan. He'll take charge of the ships, perform the inspection they're coming to make as quickly as possible, and get them to leave before the wormhole opens. Janeway tells him she'll have Voyager hang around for as long as possible at the wormhole in the hopes that Diarrhea Pocket can join them. He's not sure he'll be able to manage it, but a little saliva swapping gives him the incentive to try. Inspection time. We go through the same procedures as before, and we give a point to whoever changed the lineup in the mess hall from the last time round, adding a few different people to boot. There's even a tray on the table this time. I could point out that the quantity and position of all the food in the kitchen is the same as it was nearly a week earlier, but nobody's perfect, and at least someone made the effort. But again, I digress. Diarrhea Pocket's in Janeway's ready room, of course, playing some Tchaikovsky through the ship. He dismisses his lapdog so he and Janeway can have a proper chat. She confirms that the telepaths are safely in the teleport buffer, and they found the wormhole too. Diarrhea Pocket's delighted by the news, and so is his lapdog when he's called back in and told there are a dozen fugitives aboard and they found the escape route to boot. As lapdog goes off to round them up, we have the inevitable betrayal chat. The child he sent to the concentration camp was real, by the way. He just got over his guilt afterwards. We go to the bridge to find all of the crew have been replaced, and Janeway is given the first officer's chair. She sits down, but I note it's not with apprehension, instead calmly crossing her legs, and it occurs to me that it would be terribly interesting if what Janeway had told him about the telepath and wormhole was a lie. Diarrhea Pocket tries to open the wormhole by farting a firework at the point where it should be, only to discover that it isn't. And those people in the teleport buffer? Barrels of vegetables. The real telepaths are on 2 shuttles, one's equipped with the same anti-scanner shields that the Devore ships in the Nebula were using, and they pass through the real swirly without issue before it vanishes. Lapdog wants to haul in Voyager and its crew, but he's overruled by Diarrhea Pocket. The escape of so many fugitives right under their noses would not bode well for their careers, and he orders the entire thing hushed up. He's the last to leave the bridge, complimenting Janeway on her deception. She confirms that the offer to join her was genuine, and he at least has the decency to tell her that he was tempted before he departs. We leave Janeway to wrestle with having both won and lost at the same time, while we're left to wonder where we've hidden Tuvok, Ensign Conspicuous, and the Betazoid as we fly away. I do love a good bastard. Diarrhea Pocket is a delicious little weasel of a man, and we heap points on Mark Harlick for managing to be both that and a genuinely likeable spy, too. Kate Mulgrew gets her own share of the points for her performance in this one, and it's high time we had a decent Janeway-centric episode. We don't get many opportunities to glimpse the person behind the captain's pips, and the interactions between Janeway and her potential beau are convincingly done. All of that being said, there are a few plot holes I need to get out of my system. If the original plan was for us to hand over the guests and not visit the wormhole ourselves, what was the plan for Tuvok, Ensign Conspicuous, and the Betazoid we have? Just keep sticking them in the teleport buffer? And how did the transport ship that we were originally supposed to meet know where the wormhole is if a scientist specializing in it hadn't worked it out? Coasting past the sensor doesn't make sense either. Even if we could coast at Voyager's fastest sublight speed, which is all we could have been doing based on the position of the warp nacelles before we scarpered, it's still slower than going round at warp by about 2,000,000%. And that's not me being hyperbolic, by the way, that's the actual percentage difference in speed. The sensor could be at the target location, of course, removing the possibility of going round, but then that rules out getting there entirely if we can't use warp. When they're detected, Paris says they're 11 hours away at maximum warp, which is still around 6.5 light years, so what the fuck was the plan here? That journey would take nearly 26 years at Voyager's maximum impulse speed, which even I can calculate is slightly longer than the 3 days they started with. None of it adds up, and it's a plot point that could just as easily have been replaced with them being spotted by a divorced scout that Diarrhea Pocket didn't know about. Same chase in the end, but none of the bad maths. But fuck all of that. I've said before that I can forgive much if the rest is up to scratch, and this episode was a delight. In what's been a season of generally strong stories, this still manages to shine, and that makes any shortcomings easy to ignore. Before we end, can we talk about the Star Wars references? Diarrhea Pocket's proper name is Kashyyyk, which is only 2 letters off the Wookiee home planet, and he tells Janeway when he pretends to defect that he's her only hope. I wonder if there were any others that I missed. End of episode.
I can't stand it anymore.
Can't stand what?
Being like this. In the last 72 hours, I've spent 51 of them licking my balls. I've got nothing else done. I can't function this way.
Oh, if I'd known it were going to affect you that badly, I'd have not suggested it. Actually, that's a lie. I'd have done it sooner because it's funny, but I still feel a bit bad about it. Anyway, what choice do you have?
I can try and get back into Voyager again.
We talked about this. The teleporters and these things are bloody death traps. Look what happened to us already. You go through it again and who knows how it ends.
What's the worst that could happen?
I mean, you could come back inside out and spend the last few minutes of your life trying to scream through lungs that don't work anymore because they're lying on floor. Actually, that sounds like a laugh. We'll do it next week. Woof.